everyone. Welcome to the third week of school. We are going to read our Bible story for this week, but before we begin, I would like to have a small prayer with you. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for the gift of your love and for the gift of this life that you've given us. I ask that you would draw close to us as we learn more about you and the world around us through our Bible story today. Thank you so much for always loving us, for protecting us, and for being our best friend. In your name I pray. Amen. So, our Bible story for today is called On the Bottom of a River. And our memory verse for this week is found from Joshua 4:21. Now, kindergarten, your memory verses are sometimes a little bit different, but they're talking about the same things. So, you can pull out your memory verse with me and we can read together. In the future, your children will ask you, what do these rocks mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan River on dry ground. Now you might be thinking, this seems kind of like a funny memory verse, or what is important about this? What's going on here? The best way to know more about what's going on and why this is important is to just read our story, and we'll discuss our memory verse at the end. On the bottom of a river, one morning, it was noisy in the camp of the Israelites. Women rushed here and there, gathering up their things, getting ready to move again. The pillar of cloud was about to help them cross the Jordan River into the promised land. Every now and then, people would stop what they were doing and look across the river. They could see the green hills of Canaan. Between the people and the hills was the Jordan River. It was springtime, and the melted snows from the mountains, as well as the spring rain, had swollen the river into a flooded brown torrent. So right now, the Jordan River is not calm. It's big, rushing, and almost kind of scary right now. How are we going to get across this river, Mama? Asked a little girl, holding her baby brother on her hip. Mama smiled as she closed the cloth bag and tied it. Remember the story I told you about the Red Sea? How God opened it up for the people to cross? I believe he will part the waters again. Oh, Mama, really? Yes, dear. Papa is with the other men right now. Joshua has said they must choose 12 men, one from each tribe. He also said to wash and make ourselves holy for the Lord, because God will do great things for us today. When we see the box of agreement being carried toward the river, we are supposed to follow it, but not too closely. Just then, they heard Joshua say in a loud voice, "Come here, listen to the words of the Lord your God. Here is proof that the living God is with you right now. The box of agreement will go on ahead of you into the Jordan River. It is the agreement with the Lord of the whole world. The priests will carry the holy box of the Lord. They will carry it into the Jordan ahead of you. When they enter the water, the river will stop flowing." Picking up their things, the people watched as the priests carried the covered holy box on their shoulders, and they made their way down the bank of the Jordan River. They held their breath as the priests neared the water. It was rushing and raging, and it did not show any signs of stopping. The priests did not stop walking, though. Step by careful step, they walked right into the roaring river. The first priests reached the water. Holding the poles that carried the ark, they stepped carefully into the water. It swirled and foamed around their ankles. Then, with a whoosh, it pulled away from their feet. All the water coming downstream piled up as if an invisible dam were holding it. All the water flowing downstream kept right on going, and the riverbed was dry. The priests kept walking, right out into the middle. With a shout, the people of Israel went forward to cross the river, while the priests stood in the center with the ark. The little girl let out the breath she had been holding. Oh, Mama, God did make a path through the water again. Yes, dear, God helped us again. Just then, Papa hurried up, breathless from running. There you are, Papa. Where have you been? I have been chosen from our tribe to do something special to help us remember this day. I don't know what it will be yet. As soon as we are across, I must go to Joshua. So, Papa shouldered his bundle and turned toward the river. It took quite a while for the people to get across the river. When all were on the other side, and the priest stood in the middle, Joshua called the 12 chosen men to him and instructed, "Go out into the river where the holy box of the Lord your God is. Each of you should find one large rock. There will be one rock for each tribe of Israel. Carry the rock on your shoulder. These rocks will be a sign among all of you. In the future, your children will be asking you, 'What do these rocks mean?' Tell them, 'When the holy box of the agreement with the Lord crossed the river, the water stopped.' These rocks will help the Israelites remember what happened forever." The little girl watched as her father walked out with the other men to the middle of the river, where the priest stood with the holy box. Each man bent down, picked up a big rock as big as he could carry, and lifted it up on his shoulder. Then the 12 men reached the shore with their big rocks. The priests followed with the holy box. The instant the last priest's feet left the water, there was a mighty roar, and the water that had been standing still suddenly began rushing down. The little girl stared at the place where her father had found his rock. No one would ever see that place again because it was underwater. At the first place they camped, the 12 men used the stones to build a monument. To make sure no one forgot what this ceremony meant, Joshua explained again, "Now in the future, your children will ask you, 'What do these rocks mean?' Tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan River on dry land. The Lord your God caused the water to stop flowing. The river was dry until the people finished crossing it. The Lord did the same thing for us at the Jordan that he did for the people at the Red Sea. Remember that he stopped the water at the Red Sea so that all of us could cross. The Lord did this so all people would know that he has great power. Then they will always respect the Lord your God." The little girl remembered the story her mother had told her about the crossing of the Red Sea. She thought of the story that she would tell her children someday. What a day it had been. She and her family were actually now in the Promised Land, a place she had been hearing about all her life. She would never forget this day, and she would make sure her children never did either. Now, in our story, we heard a lot of parts that talked about our memory verse, and we are going to read it one more time together. In the future, your children will ask you, "What do these rocks mean?" Tell them, "Israel crossed the river, the Jordan River, on dry ground." Joshua 4:21. Now we can talk about why is this memory verse important? What do these rocks mean? And why are we talking about them? So, Joshua is now the leader of the Israelites, and Joshua knows that in the past the Israelites have forgotten a lot of the things that God had done for them. They forget so easily. Sometimes they think, "Oh, I will never forget this. God is great." And then the next day they're kind of back to grumbling and complaining, and they don't think about the things that God has done for them. So Joshua decided there is no way that we're going to forget how God helped us in this. So we are going to do our best to build a monument so that we can remember, so that days and weeks and years when we're so far apart from this event, we can still remember what God did for us. So he had 12 people from each tribe get a big rock, and they built a monument pile so that they could remember God and his great power for all the days to come. Okay, so this is important. God wants us to remember all the good things and all of his wonderful power, because there are going to be some days when it might be a little bit hard to think about, well, God, what are you doing in my life? Or I wonder what your plan is for me, or I'm feeling like I'm just not sure what the future is going to hold. So it's very important that we learn to remember how God has helped us in the past so that we can have faith about God helping us in the future. So what I want to do is I want to show you one of my little monuments, okay? This is my Bible right here. And now I want you to know that a monument doesn't have to be some big thing that's built out of rocks or something that's big and grand and fancy and built. It can be a small thing to help you remember how God has helped you or how God is leading you in your life. So I want to show you one of my little monuments, okay? I found this picture about maybe a couple weeks ago, okay? This is a picture of me getting baptized. It's kind of hard to see, but this is my baptism day. I was 16 years old and I got baptized at summer camp. And a few weeks ago I decided that I would keep this in my Bible so that I would remember this day more often, because this day is very important to me, and I know that it's important to God too, because this is a day that I made like a public commitment to God, and I said, God, I am going to follow you. I'm going to try my best. And so I keep this in my Bible now, and I ask myself, I made a promise to God that day. Am I still keeping that promise? Are there ways that I could do a better job of being committed to God? How is God working in my life today? And so I decided to keep this little monument, okay? Remember, it doesn't have to be something big and fancy. For me, it's just a picture. I keep this in my Bible so that I can remember my commitment to God, how he's been leading me, and it's going to help me think about what I can do to be a better servant for God. So I want you to think about, what are some monuments in your life? Can I come up with a monument today? Remember, a monument can be anything, and it can be about anything that God has done for you. Maybe you just had a really good day and you felt like, wow, I could really see God leading me in this day. What can I do to remember? Maybe you can draw a picture. You can create anything for your own monument. Okay, have a great rest of your week, kindergartner, first graders, and second graders. I miss you guys and I love you guys.